Chapter 9 opens with Akira and Cheryl walking through the gang's territory. She's showing them everything, and they talk about the neutral ground they're walking through. Akira says, "Neutral ground? Don't the other gangs at least try to fight over the territory and the base?" Cheryl replies, "It's not like they can immediately use force to take over this area, and it'll only invite a needless war and deceasements." Alpha then teleports behind Akira, startling him a bit, but she says, "That aside, having the both of you walk side by side like this makes it look like you're on a date." Akira then swiftly replies with, "You know that it's not a date." Alpha says, "Nope, it's a date. You might want to argue otherwise, but you know that it's pointless to argue against me, right?" Alpha puts her arms around Cheryl's shoulders and says, "So with that being said, since this is a date, let's buy a present for Cheryl." Akira starts to glare, and Cheryl notices, thinking that that glare is directed towards her. Akira relents and says, "What should I buy her?" Alpha says, "It's good that you're so obedient." Akira says, "I feel like you're going to lecture me about all the reasons why I should do this, so it's pointless, right?" Alpha gives him a big S-eating smile. Akira starts to look around the bazaar, and something catches his eye. It's guns! But he thinks, wait, I guess that's not a suitable present for a girl, huh? He asks Alpha, "What do you think I should pick?" Alpha says, "Decide it by yourself. It'll also be a lesson if you pick something weird and make her look at you all weirded out." Looking back at Alpha, he says, "Fine then, I'll ask her myself." And he asks Cheryl, "Is there anything you want to buy in this place?" She says, "Eh?" Akira scratches his head and says, "Well, like you need proof, right? Something to show that we're close enough to give you a present, right? I'm thinking of giving a present that you can use as proof of that." Cheryl puts her fingers together and gives him a beaming smile and says, "In that case, will it be possible for me to leave it to you to pick? I believe that'll work better that way." Akira flinches. He's right back at step one. Alpha even starts to giggle behind him. Akira says, "Okay, but don't complain if I pick anything weird, okay? This is your chance if you want to pick something yourself, you know." Cheryl happily leans in and says, "Then how about an accessory? I think it'll be more effective if it's an accessory." Akira says, "I see, alright." Proudly, Akira thinks, "As I thought, a gun wasn't the right choice." Yup. Cheryl thanks Akira, and she says that she'll be in his care. Akira says, "Yeah, be careful on your way back," and she starts to walk off. As she rounds the corner, she stops and clutches something close to her chest. She stops to look at the accessory that Akira got her. It's a necklace with all types of jewels and shiny bits. Cheryl says, "That was surprising. I never thought that he was someone that considerate." Akira, he's someone hard to understand. She continues to talk to herself while walking away. But that aside, I wonder why he's often turns his face towards empty space. It's as if someone else is there. Well, I bet he'll not tell me to ask even if I ask him about it, so I guess I'll just ignore it. Akira then starts to walk too. Alpha says, "Akira, you're not going back." He says, "Well, I guess I might as well do that since I'm already outside. It's just to be safe, since this is the first day after all." Alpha is surprised by that reply. We are then brought to the gang's base. Cheryl then makes her way through the base and says, as they thought, they took all the gang's property. Only thing that's left is Sabia's throne. She remembers Sabia sitting on his throne, proudly. And she says he used to sit there all stretched out while boasting as the boss of a gang. But from today onwards, it's where I'll sit. Cheryl looks out the window and sees the remnants of the gang outside. She thinks if the leftover members of the gang saw me walking together with Akira, they'll definitely come here to confirm it. She also continues to think, it's exactly for that goal I spent half my day walking around with Akira. They're here. She goes on, if my gamble with Akira was the first hurdle, then the next gamble is the second hurdle. Although the result of my first gamble is rather questionable, as long as I'm still alive, it's my win. I have no other choice but to do this. The remnants of the gang start to close in on her. One kicks open the door to the throne room. We see the gang members with looks of anger on their face. Cheryl, coldly and coolly, sitting on the throne, says, "Welcome to my gang." One of the gang members shouts, "Your gang? What do you mean by that? That aside, why were you together with that boy? That's the boy that took out Sabine, you know. Cheryl then rests her hand on her collarbone and says, the reason why I was together with Akira is because I went to talk with him. As a result, I became the boss of this gang, starting from today onwards. The gang member says, Akira, is that the name of that boy? And Cheryl says, yep, isn't that a good name? And she continues, so why are you guys here? Are you here to pick something up that you forgot? The gang member, enraged, says, stop with the silly talk. What do you mean when you said you became the boss here? Cheryl says, since we attacked him, Akira retaliated by taking over this gang. But he's busy since he's originally a hunter, so he makes me take care of the gang in his place. But since I'm also the one giving the orders here, that basically makes me the boss. You get that? As Cheryl twirls her hair, the gang member, even angrier than before, says, don't F with me. If only that brat didn't kill him, we wouldn't be in this situation. Cheryl looks up at him with no fear in her eyes and says, although Sabia gathered that many people just to take out a single boy, in the end, he got himself taken out instead. So what do you want to say about that fool? Are you stupid or something? The gang member shuts up. He's taken aback. He stomps his foot on the throne, trying to intimidate Cheryl. And as veins start to form across his face, he says, Cheryl, you better know your place. No matter how strong that brat is, you're all alone right now. Cheryl, with a look of disinterest on her face, says, huh? Are you seriously saying that now? Do you really think I won't say anything about you guys to Akira? We know that you guys are going to come to this place. Do you really think he won't take you out if you take me out? The gang member takes out his gun and says, that's just an empty bluff. Is there any reason why that brat would go that far for you? Happily, Cheryl takes out her necklace and says, of course. See here, I got this present from him. With a smile, she says, I'm Akira's favorite. That causes the gang members to flinch and hesitate. That causes them to leave and walk off. Cheryl sits on her throne, in front of a group of younger people, and says, now what? If you don't have any business here, you can take your leave of this place. A boy that's the representative of this group says, you do know why we're here, right? Please, let us join your gang. Cheryl says, so you recognize me as your boss, right? He says, yeah, you're our boss. And happily, Cheryl says, well, in that case, I welcome you, and gives them an order, and says, but just go back home for now. I'm rather busy, you see. Come here again tomorrow night. And the group of young people walk off. Cheryl then falls to her knees a little bit, as everything that happened today finally hits her like a ton of bricks. Cheryl thinks to herself, that was dangerous, really dangerous. I thought that he would kill me back there, but I somehow survived. Although I get Akira's support, it's not like he's beside me 24/7. I need a place where I won't be taken out even without Akira. She lets out a sigh of relief. This is the first step in my gamble to build a place where I can be safe. At least I've used everything I could use. And she falls unconscious. Oh, no, she's not unconscious. She's just tired. And lets out a although it was really awful. It was way better than when Akira aimed his rifle at me. She goes on to think, now that I think about it, ever since I was a small girl, I've been good at cozying up to other people. Thanks to that, I feel like I've always been living in a relatively safe place in the Slum City up until now. Even in Sabine's gang, I worked hard to get a good position, but it's still messed up now thanks to Akira. But we see Cheryl is not safe. The gang members return, armed to the teeth. The one from before says, hey, are you sure we're really going to do this? And the one he's talking to says, if we can hand over the base to Shinjima's clan, we'll be able to get a better standing in the gang. So like hell I'd give it up to that brat. The gang member from before says, but if Cheryl was telling the truth, then this is a very bad idea. The one he's talking to says, I bet she's just bluffing. There's no way a hunter would protect a penniless girl like her. And they shout, all right, let's go. Oh, never mind. They all caught bullets to their heads. All of them. All of them clean shots. And just like that, the gang member that we saw from before is the only one left. And he lets out an eek. And he says, you? And we see a silhouetted Akira. He stands there, smoke wafting from his rifle, and says, do not mess with Cheryl. You got it? The gang member stammers out an, okay, and what's left of them runs off. Alpha says, Akira, are you sure you don't need to take out everyone? He says, yeah, It's not like I have time to keep watching over Cheryl. This is enough to at least make them hesitate before doing the same thing again in the future. And the rest is up to her luck. Cheryl continues to sleep soundly, not realizing how close she was to losing her life. Alpha says, if you're fine with this, then I don't have any problem with it either. Well now then, let's head back home. Alpha and Akira the next day are walking out of their hotel, and Cheryl is there to greet him, and she greets him with an, Akira, good morning. With a look of disinterest on his face, Akira says, morning, do you need anything from me so early in the morning? I'm headed to the ruins right now, so make it quick. Cheryl says, yes. I want to talk about what we're going to do from now on, so I wonder if you could come to the base tonight. Akira stops her and says, I see. Well, I'll come if I have any time. And Cheryl replies with, thank you very much. She also tells him, by the way, I found the corpses in front of the base this morning. Akira turns and says, corpses? It's not like it's that rare in the slum city, is it? Cheryl says gleefully, it's just that there are so many of them that I thought it was rather dangerous around the area. Akira says, I see. Later then. And she says as they leave, yes, please be careful. She starts to walk off and starts to think, I bet those corpses are his doing. But that aside, it's so surprising that he's so expressionless, even though I greeted him with my best smile. He's a hard nut to crack. What should I do so that he'll open his heart to me? Well, I guess I'll move on to my next job for now. Cheryl then takes off. Alpha tells Akira, let's go to the shop before heading to the ruins. He says, good idea. Alpha says, you really get along with her now, huh? Akira says, not really, I just frequent her shop to buy ammo. And we cut back to a desolate ruined city. A giant transport vehicle is flying through the ruins, firing off rounds from a giant chain gun. The two men in the giant armored transport vehicle argue about getting a better escort, and the other one says that they have no money to get an escort, and it can't be helped. And we get a look of what's chasing them. It's a pack of ravenous monsters. Some machine dogs, some monsters we haven't even seen yet. I don't know how they're going to get out of this one. And that was chapter 9 of Rebuild World. Thank you guys for making it to the end of the video with me. Can you please do me a huge favor and like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and all of that. It'll really help the channel out. Velvet out.